Welcome to Destination Marriage, a podcast about successfully navigating the winding roads of marriage. Whether you're newlyweds, engaged, looking to get married, or have been married for years, we want to share with you how we have navigated those winding roads over the past 19 years in our marriage.
Join us on this journey as we talk about real-life experiences in a marriage and what we have learned along the way. We discuss love, travel, fitness, raising kids, friendships, and much more, all from the perspective of our lives together.
Happiness, love, grace, passion are some of the things we all strive for in a marriage, and we invite you to take this journey with us.
Welcome to Destination Marriage.
Welcome to episode 27 of Destination Marriage. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Tommy.
And we're thrilled to have you join us on this journey today.
Indeed we are. Well, welcome back, babe.
Thank you.
It's been a couple weeks since you've been on the podcast, right?
I've missed it.
I did solo, honoring working moms. I think they got pretty good feedback from that one. So thank you, ladies, and everyone that said, wrote us and said thanks and appreciated the shout outs.
Well, thank you for giving me a shout out.
Anytime,
that
baby.
That was so sweet. I really appreciate it. And I had no idea you were actually recording that episode.
I know. I told you that I wasn't going to do it. I was going to tell you what it was about.
Yeah, I didn't know the topic. I knew you were recording, but it was a nice surprise.
Good.
I loved it.
Good. Surprises are mostly good.
So now that I'm back from Thanksgiving, and now we're kind of in full swing of just bum rushing it for the holidays.
That's right.
And just getting through 2020.
3 weeks.
We've got all the decorations up, and
a week early this year.
A week early, yes.
Just trying to get...
Actually, we started before Thanksgiving. We've officially finished.
Significantly before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. We were determined. We're like,
that's
you know
right.
what?
Thanksgiving was a week ago. Wow.
We already forgot Thanksgiving.
Pretty much.
It did kind of come and go pretty quickly. It wasn't the big to-do that it normally is, but we still managed to shove food in our faces and, basically nap the rest of the day away.
Well, we hope everyone had a fantastic Thanksgiving and are excited about Christmas. We certainly are.
We are, definitely.
Because that means 2020 is almost over.
Yep.
And COVID disappears on January 1st, in case you guys didn't know. So, well, we thought that we would kind of talk about a topic that we've kind of thrown around between us for a while around this topic for today, and that really is about how to manage outside influences in your marriage. And we thought we'd kind of focus more on kind of two. We could go in any different direction with that. There's so many things that could influence your marriage from the outside. But what we thought we'd focus on is we actually got some letters or emails from a couple of our listeners.
I would love it if people wrote a letter and they sent it
That's
Pony
right.
Express.
Yeah, they did. So we got a couple emails from listeners that had questions about similar topics. So we actually have a couple of those we're going to read to you guys here in a little bit. But we're going to focus today on friends and then in-laws or really close family members.
Yeah.
Like immediate family members, not your third cousin or cousin twice removed.
That's still a possibility.
But because those are groups of people that can have significant influence. So when before we jump in and talk about those two different groups and what our thoughts are around that, our big idea around what we believe is it's, as a married couple, you have to be very careful and very intentional about who you let speak into your life and into your marriage.
I agree.
Right? Mm-hmm. And it's about that intentionality about what you let in to your marriage and have impact. So we thought we would start off talking about the influence from friends.
Yes, but let me lead with one of the letters, actually emails, but I like the letter thing. That was actually sent to us by a listener, because when we received these, we had already been talking about this particular topic, but we thought, oh, perfect timing. And so obviously I'm not going to share who this came from, but I'm just going to read this to you guys so you understand, what we had read, and obviously we'll kind of divulge and share what our thoughts are. But okay, so listener sends a message and it reads, "My husband and I are currently at an impasse and would appreciate any advice you could offer me. My group of girlfriends and I naturally share the details of our lives during our weekly girls' night. During one of our recent nights out, I may have shared some frustrations I'm currently experiencing with my spouse. I assure you my intentions were pure, and I simply was having an open conversation with my trusted group of friends. But when I hosted a girls' night this past week, a couple of comments were made that made my husband aware of my recent complaints. He didn't react. Yeah, that's not good. He didn't react to either comment initially, but the next day he told me I had embarrassed him and he no longer wants me to have a girls' night or girls' night if it's just a husband bashing session. What should I do? I'm going to let you run with this one, Tommy.
Clearly, she needs to immediately disown all of her friends and never speak to them again.
Well, that's a little extreme. And it sounds like it's her close group of friends, but maybe they need to.
Yeah, there's like a lot of different directions here when I read that, like what my thoughts are. Let's play it out in a couple different scenarios because I think that matters. I guess one of the key things that makes my kind of ears go up and my radar is the fact that those friends thought it was okay to make that comment clearly enough for her husband to hear. So there's something wrong there, in my opinion. That's not a great friend.
Well, they may have thought it was lighthearted fun. Maybe they didn't take it that serious. Maybe they're not married. Maybe they're not in that at that level of a relationship. Maybe they're not in a committed relationship, so they don't really see the severity of it. It could be completely innocent. Maybe it's not, but it could be
No.
No.
Then why bring it up only when the husband happens to be around?
Some people like to stir the pot. I don't know.
That's not innocent. That's
okay.
what I'm saying.
That's it. I'm
that's
saying
right.
for a laugh. Now, maybe they want to stir the pot because they're just that person that are a troublemaker.
Yeah.
I don't know her friends. But I'm saying, like,
I know.
It's a
we don't know.
close
We don't know
group
what
of
was,
friends.
and we don't know. He just said he was embarrassed. So if he's mature enough to not say anything in the moment and not react, but to say, "Hey, I was embarrassed that what your friend said. You obviously told them about the issue we're having, whatever that issue is, and then we don't know what it is.
Right.
Clearly, if it was something terrible, the girls wouldn't just be coming over for a girls' night, the following week or whatever. Like, it would be a much worse situation, right? If they wouldn't just bring it up in the middle of a girls' night, it would be a problem. Like if it was something really detrimental, but it's enough to embarrass them. And
well, let's say this is you. Okay. I mean, this has not happened to us, but let's say it was you. What would your reaction be?
I wouldn't say anything right then and there either.
Yeah, I don't think you would.
No, but I would say something probably that night. I don't know. It doesn't say when he said the next day.
Yeah.
So, he held on to it for the night.
Well, it's probably, if it's a girls' night, it probably went late.
Yeah,
at that point.
Who knows the scenario? I think that, like I said, the first thing is that since the topic is like, how do you how do you manage that influence? Because clearly those friends have influence in her life. I would ask the wife if she was asking me just one-on-one or with us, like, do you think that those girlfriends have your best interest and your marriage's best interest at heart if they're willing to kind of embarrass your husband in his presence or close enough to his presence, even if he would just happen to be in the kitchen or something and heard it?
Right.
That means, like, I would ask that question, and the wife's response would kind of gauge where her head's at.
Yeah.
I mean, she obviously is worried about it. She wrote us about it. But
I don't think she's discounting his feelings. I think she's probably trying to figure out just, what do I do? I mean, he's so upset that he no longer wants her to have that girls' night, that outlet. I think she needs to have a conversation with that friend or friends, whomever made the comment. And I think it's probably a lesson that she should learn, even if she didn't have girls' night, just she needs to learn that some things are just not meant to be shared, on girls'
the reason
night
I said, like, let's play it out in a few different scenarios is, if it's, let's say it's a couple that's been married for a long time, and this is maybe, a closer group of friends, people that they've lived life together, they've done life together as friends, that would be interesting if that was the scenario. I'm assuming they're younger and, they're still kind of used to the girls' night out thing with their friends and, like, they kind of keep that tradition.
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't know.
I mean, if they're having girls' night, what is this, like a weekly thing? I'm saying they probably don't have kids.
There's not 4 kids running around?
No.
Yeah.
Probably don't have babies.
I mean, we could play this scenario out so many different ways, but I really think that the husband and wife need to kind of sit down, and the wife in this point needs to, in my opinion, kind of take the lead. It's her friends. Clearly, it's her friends that have the girls' night. and whether or not how aggressive she is with saying like, hey, you know what, I mean, she could even say like, hey, look, Billy overheard this, last week. He was really embarrassed by that. I really don't appreciate that was said in confidence.
Yeah.
I trust you guys, and I would appreciate if you don't do that. But she should probably be mindful of what she says to her friends.
Yeah, I agree.
She's, I don't know if there was drinking involved. Sometimes people, loose lips. Who knows?
Some people don't even eat alcohol. They just have like diarrhea of the mouth.
Yeah, but then I go back to the fact that the friends brought it up in that setting when he was around. That I think I'd keep a side eye on that person or not be open with that person going forward. I think
that's wise.
I would ask the wife not to be.
And that's the thing. If let's say they are pretty maybe early on in the marriage and maybe some of those friends, I'm going to guess that maybe that friend isn't married.
You never know. Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're not. I'm just saying, like, if it's a younger couple and their friends are still kind of not at that stage yet, maybe it was completely just lighthearted and unintentional in terms of causing some type of disagreement or really offending the husband. But first and foremost, it's your job. It's my job as your wife, to make sure that, and vice versa, we need to protect the spirit of one another. I would never want anybody to say something that's going to be cutting to you, whether it's a side comment or whatever it may be. If they use something that maybe I did share as a dagger towards you or vice versa, that's completely unacceptable. And
I would venture to say that woman is probably a gossip.
Yeah.
Like that tends to be, they kind of go hand in hand. If they're willing to make a slide comment in that environment, they've got other agendas maybe, but I think it's more of they're just not a great person, to be honest.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to be
We're going all the way.
Jackie, I would never do that to one of my friends. I know it's a little bit different if a guy is like saying something harsh to a woman that's their husband, their friend's wife.
I do think that's a little different.
It is, but could you ever see me if I knew something, if one of my friends was coming to me about a issue they have with the wife, and then the next time we're all together, I like make a comment specifically about that situation, knowing full well that it's a problem in their marriage. I would never do that.
That's so
rude. It doesn't even cross my. But I just did that.
That person just
I just hypothetically did that, and you said it's so rude.
They don't have any manners. I mean, I don't know. They don't have any manners.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, baby. You're right. You have to protect each other's spirits. And a lot of that is really with the friends that you trust.
Yeah. I think if she's going to keep that person in her circle of friends and she still wants to have girls' night, those conversations around the marriage or her spouse need to be eliminated from girls' night.
Yes, completely.
Yeah.
And if you want to have one-on-one, you need that advice from a friend that you trust that again, isn't going to go gossiping or blabbing about it and make jokes about it or comments, then that's fine. We all need that in our lives. No, I don't like this girl already. I don't even know who she is.
She shouldn't be your confidant. She can be your fun friend, maybe.
Yeah. So what other kind of situations do we, since we're on the topic of friends, what else do you think that we have to
here's the thing,
be mindful of as far as how we, how do we protect our marriage?
Right. I mean, there's a lot of different ways I think that, friendships can impact your marriage. And I wouldn't say like we've experienced all of them, but maybe some over the years. I think because we were married very young, maybe there were some challenges where maybe friends didn't quite understand that we didn't have the flexibility to do things that you normally would do if you were in your early 20s. You're not living a single life anymore.
Right.
So a lot of friends can guilt you into, oh my gosh, you never go out anymore. I never see you anymore, because you were doing you had the free time. You were doing all of the things, because you could, but things change when you get married. But that's, I would say, guilting you.
And not just, and what it could also be like the flip side of that.
What's that?
Or, fast forward 15, 20 years. And unfortunately, a lot of marriages end in divorce, and you don't want that same friend who's now divorced.
Having
negativity or bringing that, oh, well, I'm single now. I'm going out all the time.
You're
is
missing
great.
out.
You're missing out. You should, that could have a very catastrophic effect too.
Yeah.
So I would as a couple, my advice, if asked, if let's say it's a couple and one of this, you have a friend that just got divorced. Let's say it's your friend. I think we would need to agree on what that interaction, you would need to be there to support that person, but not enable them in their singleness. You know what I mean?
Right. Encourage and be a support, but you're not their wingman, I guess.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's a good word. Yeah. There you go.
That's not on the table for you anymore.
That's dangerous.
You're married. Yeah.
And so it's important to have those friendships. Don't get me wrong. We're not saying don't have friends because it'll be negative on your marriage, but it's more about being wise in the friends that you have who you trust to actually let speak into your marriage.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
A guilting one's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you need to use wisdom, but sometimes things change over the years as far as maybe what your views are, what you want out of your marriage versus the next person. They could also be married, but it's all about also respecting, what our goals are in our marriage. Somebody else may think something's not a big deal, or they may think we make a bigger deal out of something than they do. And we may have certain boundaries, but you don't have to always agree with everyone.
Right.
But you do need to respect each other's boundaries. And if they're not respecting your boundaries...
And healthy discussion, you can have a healthy discussion about things that you disagree on.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
But again, it's back to like it's almost like what's their agenda, right? And so if the agenda is pure and, you know what I mean? Like if it's positive and pure, then you can have healthy debate or discussion or not agree on something and still have a good time with those people, or but man, watch out for agendas, because sometimes people will speak negative of your spouse if they feel they can get away with it,
like just to plant seeds.
Yeah, to plant seeds, right? And that's an agenda. Yeah, so you just got to have open eyes about what things like that happen.
Yeah.
And just because maybe even with friends, sometimes you were friends with them before you even met your spouse, so you have a lot more history with that friend. That doesn't mean that their minds and their agendas don't change. They may change, and they may be jealous, and that may be driving it. Who knows? There's so many different ways we can play it, but I think it's more about making sure you recognize that you are now in a different relationship. You're in a covenant marriage relationship. You're not in a dating relationship. You're not, friends. You are married. That is now your home.
Yeah.
You have to protect
I thought
it.
we were roommates.
With benefits.
I like you.
I like you too. I think I'm going to keep you.
I'm going to keep you.
All right. So that was our friends kind of section. What about in-laws and close family relationships?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I've been blessed to have wonderful in-laws who are very supportive of our marriage. But I think that more often than not, at some point in the marriage, sometimes there can be a little bit of maybe an awkward exchange, some friction, because obviously before your spouse came along, you were in your parents' home, and they've known
only
you
known
longer.
you as their kid.
Right. They've been able to speak into your life since the moment you were born. So I think
and
that's
it's their responsibility
challenge.
To speak into your life. It's their job to speak into your life and to have that influence.
But I think that there are a lot of in-laws that still try to have the controls.
Yeah.
And that I have heard that more often than not, where there seems to be a challenge, whether it's the mother-in-law or the father-in-law, that tries to have some type of control over your marriage. And they still want to have a say in major decisions that you make. And that can be really detrimental to a marriage. We haven't experienced that, but I have seen and I have heard that before. And I know that it can cause a lot of animosity. It's kind of a sticky situation too, because I think it puts whether it's the husband or the wife and it's their parents, it definitely puts them in the middle. Kind of a little bit of a tug of war there, Yeah,
it can. It can. I mean, there's so many different ways it could play out, but I think that a lot of times it boils down to whatever the situation is, that the spouse whose parent or parents are trying to have that influence needs to have a kind of blunt, nice but firm conversation and loving conversation, but set ground rules and set boundaries.
Yeah.
Of what's allowed now.
Boundaries.
What? Is that a term, or did you just make it up?
I just made it up.
Sang
a little jingle jangle.
Jingle. I was trying to think of
it's
the
the
word.
holidays. You got to throw a jingle jangle in there.
Boundaries. All right.
Well, here's we had another
let's
listener
talk
that
about-
actually
this
wrote
is
in,
kind of funny.
and that's why
I
we
like the
really
end.
wanted to touch on this. So the listener that had wrote in shared, I'm curious to know your thoughts on a situation I'm having with my husband. A little insight into who we are. We've been married for 2 years and we have been together for 5. My husband and I have been recently making some life changes and decisions in preparation for starting our family, but my husband seems to not make a decision without consulting his parents first. I love my husband, but he's a bit of a mama's boy. I'm worried this is going to get worse once we start having kids.
Uh-oh.
First of all, it's a turnoff, okay? So if he wants to kill your libido, he's going to keep asking mom and dad what to do. But I would say get the scissors out and cut those apron strings.
Not apron, cut the umbilical cord.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
That's even more
okay,
aggressive.
so here's my first question.
Okay.
Did she not know? They've been together for 5 years.
Maybe people believe things will change when they get married.
That's true, right? Oh, once
think
he's out of the
people think
house or
that.
once they're, So let's assume they're young, right? They've been together for 5, but they've been married for 2. We don't know if he was an adult when they started dating or anything like that. So
No.
we can make assumptions. But the point is, with 3 years of dating prior to getting married, you kind of know if the guy's a mama's boy.
I do think some people, I think some women think that they can change
Sure.
that their husband or their man, once they get married and they start making these moves like buying a house or, start planning their life together, I think that they think that's the nudge that he needs to maybe move away from, asking.
No, I understand that that's how a lot of women act, but the problem is it's like that's not.
It's not
or what they
realistic.
think.
It's not going to
how they
happen.
act. It's not. Well, it could, but it might get ugly first for a while until that maturity kind of happens.
Okay, so even if she went into it blindly thinking, I'm going to change him, it's still not her fault, right? I mean, she loves him.
Okay, so it says he's a mama's boy, but we don't know is how controlling the mom is. There's a difference. There's some boys that just love their moms and they're mama's boys, but
Boys love your moms.
no, you know what I mean? Like they could just absolutely adore and just like there's an insinuation in being a mama's boy that like his mama has some control over him, right? Let's assume that's the case. She's controlling, because there's a big difference between being like, I dote on my mom, I love my mom to death, and I seek her advice because I love her and she gives me great advice,
Right.
versus my mom says I have to ask her for every to wipe my ass. Like there's a big difference.
We're going to have to bleep that out.
Do we agree on that? No, do we agree on that or not?
Wipe your rear? Yeah. Well, okay, so let's say if it is life choices, right? I mean, for example, we talked about this before. There are people that in my line of business where I've worked with people and extended a job offer and they're clearly married, but they need to talk to mom and dad first before they accept a job offer. Shouldn't they go to their wife or their spouse first? I feel like
The fact that they would say that to you as a recruiter
Oh,
first.
I guess it's
like-
okay to tell me the recruiter, but
No, but
don't
that's
tell
their
your
first train of
hiring
that's their
manager.
first train of thought. That's where they're going. That's where their head goes is, I got to talk to my dad,
Yeah,
which is fine. But it's about you discuss it with your spouse
First.
You work it out with your spouse first. What I'm reading from this, the fact that she says I'm worried when we start having kids, is that she's worried about mom taking control and like coming in and like, oh, well, this is how you need to do with the this is what
how
you need to do with the
discipline
baby.
them.
This is how you do this. Well, I've had kids. Let me help.
right.
And so, if honestly in this situation, the man has got to step up. But the
He
question,
can't make a decision. How's he going to step up? He doesn't even know.
he needs to learn. He needs to have somebody speak into his life that is gonna tell him what is the risk of what he's risking.
I feel like this is a lot of work for this wife. Now she needs to find somebody to talk to him so he can speak for himself.
We don't know if she's saying anything. So if she's asking us, right, our thoughts, I would say that she should paint a picture of what this looks like down the road. Your
To
mom,
him.
hey, first, and it's like, hey, look, we're married, we're husband and wife. I love your parents. I think they're great, but it is about me and you first. Our marriage is the most important relationship in our world. Then your parents.
Right.
And then when we have kids, it's going to be our relationship, then our parent, our children's relationships with us, then your parents. Like, that's just the natural course of a healthy life.
Yeah.
I would have her give some sort of, version of that.
But then it really is up to him to have that conversation with with his parents on, taking a few steps back, because he's in his next stage of his life, and his immediate family is first his wife.
Yeah.
And then, of course, their children when they have children. But I agree with you. I think this is something they need to take care of right now before they have kids. It's only going to get worse.
And she's wise enough to see that, oh my gosh, I could see this getting worse.
Maybe she didn't see it in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, when you're in the beginning,
for 3 years,
you have
never
rose-colored
saw it happen
glasses.
for 3 years.
Okay, this is not her fault, okay? I mean, I'm
not saying it's her fault. I'm just
in
saying,
the beginning,
ladies.
It's like a whirlwind of love, and she's
for
wearing...
3 years, she didn't see rose-colored glasses for 3 years.
Hey, you don't know what kind of romance story they have. It could have been a 3-year...
Do you hear this, ladies? All these excuses? I'm not blaming her. I'm just saying, ladies, look out. Be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Head it off before it's a problem.
I don't disagree with you.
I'm not blaming this particular person. I'm just saying, as a general rule.
Yeah.
Are women attracted to that, though?
You're asking the wrong person. I just said earlier, if you were indecisive, literally could not make a decision,
I guess
it would be many a cold night. Okay, I'll just put it that way. Like, it's a turnoff. It just is. Like, I like the fact that you can make decisions for yourself. I love your mom and dad. And if we really couldn't make a decision, I 100%, if we wanted to go to them and share, hey, we're at a fork in the road. But I know that you would never go to them first without asking me, or sharing that with me. It's like it sounds like he completely
defaults to them, and then probably says, hey, I talked to my parents and I think we should do this.
Right.
And she's just sitting there like, you kidding me?
It's disrespectful.
It is.
He obviously doesn't see any value in her opinion.
I would, in this particular situation, given that he's a mama's boy, I think that it's not that he doesn't care for her opinion. He doesn't recognize the problem that he has, that he's creating by not going to her first and not having that discussion with her.
Yeah.
Or maybe he just isn't a jerk and he thinks his wife is an idiot. I don't know. But it sounds more like that's just his default. I go to mommy for everything. I've been doing that my whole life. Why would I change now?
Yeah.
So it's a problem. I think, so that's like the big one, right? Is like the mama's boy decision making. Because clearly if he's a mama's boy, the mom lives off of that, or like, she likes it. So
and
she's
probably makes
gonna
her feel, it makes her feel wanted and needed and loved. I mean, I do see the difficulty if was their way of life, and she always did those things, and he never showed any level of independency and wanted to make those decisions on his own. And maybe even the dad also saw it and allowed it as well, and never said to the mom,
because maybe we need to let
him
he's soft. The dad's probably soft too.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So he's soft too. He's a marshmallow. I don't know. And
I don't mean physically. I mean like emotionally and
I
mentally.
Immediately think soft like a Stay Puft Marshmallow when you say soft.
He could be a big fat guy, but he could still be a man and be
I know that's
a provider and the right kind of, decision maker in the home, and, and respect his wife and respect the boundaries, but it doesn't sound like it. He's probably just sitting in the corner letting the mom.
Maybe he's picking and choosing his battles. I don't know.
Because the mom's an overbearing. I don't know.
It could be. I don't know. I mean, there's obviously we're honestly taking this to a whole other level. We don't know.
I'm getting angry over here about this scenario. I want to go shake some trees.
Here's the thing. If she does approach her husband and tells him with love, obviously wouldn't encourage a screaming match ever, but with love and shares her concerns around this relationship or this dependency that he has on his parents to make every life choice, and he's unwilling to make the decision, or maybe he flat out just doesn't see what she's talking about, then I would encourage them to seek counsel. Because sometimes you need an outside. So he sounds like he needs somebody who's maybe like an outside.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah. And a professional, somebody who's a neutral party.
If you're listening, lady who wrote this letter, and if you're listening, have him call me.
You're not a counselor.
I'll set him straight. No, I'm just kidding. Please don't do that. So what other, I mean, that, that dependence is sometimes a really hard one to break.
Mm-hmm.
What other kind of scenarios do you have to be mindful of with family and outside influence?
I think sharing too much. I think that could be, and again, I'm not saying we should obviously feel like it's a safe place to share certain things with family members, but if it's a mom or dad or a sibling, or that third cousin, I don't know, if you're sharing too much, things that you and your husband had agreed on keeping between the two of you, and you go and you share those things, or there's a struggle going on in your marriage at the time, or you're angry with your spouse and you start complaining about your spouse. Like, I mean, I hear you all the time on the phone with my mother-in-law complaining about me.
Yeah, right.
Jackie burned the steak again.
I do. It's just, it's terrible. I'm so over your cooking.
Actually, I can't remember the last time I burned a meal. When's the last time I burned a meal?
When was the last time you cooked a steak?
Actually, no, I don't cook steak. You do that.
I kind of cook all the steaks,
Yeah.
don't I?
You do cook all the steaks.
I do.
Yeah.
The grill is mine.
The grill.
No, actually,
I grill more than you do, actually.
At this point.
But let's say you're complaining to a family member, your mom or dad, and I overheard you do that. I would feel heartbroken.
Yeah.
It's
embarrassing.
Not that my in-laws don't love me or those family members, whomever you're sharing with, don't love your spouse. But the fact that you're doing that, and if they heard you do that, it feels like you're gossiping about them. It feels like I would feel a little betrayed.
Yeah.
And
again, it goes back to that, like, you got to think of your marriage as that is now your home. That is now, you have to protect that entity, that marriage. And I think for younger couples, maybe it's more the case where, then the feedback could be like, well, why are you mad? It's my mom. I tell my mom everything. You know that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's fine if you did that when you were a teenager, but you're a married man now. You can't go and tell your mom, your dad, everything.
What if I went to your mom?
I'd be pissed.
But it's your mom.
Doesn't matter. It's the
It's
same
the same?
idea. It's same. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be angry because that's not.
Well, because we're
that's
talking
not
about going
appropriate.
to, and what we were talking about is going to like our parents, right?
I know, but I'm saying,
so
like,
if I went to your mom, would you feel just as upset, or would you feel like, that's my mom? I don't know.
I mean, it depends on the situation, what you're saying to, right? If you were like, if Tommy keeps doing this stupid habit, then haha, we'd have fun with it. But
Yeah.
if it's like a real issue, then no, I don't. I think that's inappropriate. I think it sets up some bitterness potentially if it's not dealt with, or it's anger.
Yeah.
And like you said, you could even feel a little betrayed.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you go and say that?
I could see that. Unless you both agree, if you are experiencing a struggle, I'm not saying like some massive catastrophic thing, in that case, you both should be speaking to or together a third party if you're going through something that's just cracking the foundation of your marriage. But let's say there is something that you both are kind of maybe at a fork in the road and you're struggling with something.
Right. If you agree upon it and you have, because let's say you really both really respect the father-in-law, whatever, then that's fine. But again, but it kind of goes back to this friend thing too, is like also the agenda of that person. Just because they're family doesn't mean they don't have an agenda and don't want to hurt your marriage or have some sort of jealousy or some anger from, there's
well, let's hope that they don't. I mean,
but people do. That's the immediate family thing too, is like there's family dynamics can create, people can use that kind of stuff against you in the future.
Right.
People,
you need to use wisdom.
People do that. They do it. Yeah. You need to use wisdom and know, you kind of know who your family is, right? You would hope.
Right.
And who you just,
there shouldn't be any surprises.
Just because they're your family does not mean everything's their business.
Yeah.
By any means. Most things are not their business.
what about, because obviously we're now in December.
Yeah.
I know Thanksgiving for most people, everyone was kind of staying home this year. It was much smaller, so they probably didn't have these challenges. But let's say Christmas is around the corner. I think people are trying to go a little bit bigger for Christmas and get together. Let's say we weren't even in the midst of a pandemic. I know that, especially for newly married couples, maybe not, when you're 20 years into the marriage, but there's a little bit of a struggle of, no, Christmas is always at our house.
Ah, yeah, I think that's something that, it's definitely new. I thought you were going somewhere else with that, but
where was I going to
go? Well, I'll bring it up in a second. Yeah, but let's keep going with yours. Yeah.
No, but and so then let's say it was your parents, okay? And your parents said, well, this is our tradition. So we do. We come to my house every Christmas. at this time. We open gifts at this time. And obviously you want to start your own traditions. You start having kids. Where does that put you?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's your parents.
I think the answer is a little bit multifaceted. I'd say if it's a newly married couple, no kids, it's probably wiser to maybe ease into that transition and just kind of go with that. Let's say that they're non-competing times or something, right?
Yeah.
And let's assume that everybody's in the same general area, so you can do it all in one day.
Okay. Like 4 Christmases?
Like 4 Christmases, right? I'd say maybe respect that if there's not a really firm tradition in one house, but the other house, the mom's like, nope, every year at 4:30 we have Christmas dinner, and I expect everyone here. Everyone comes here. They've been doing it for 10 years. All your life, whatever. Maybe the first year you just kind of do that and just kind of manage it. If you have to make a decision because 2 families have very specific traditions, you either split it and just tell everybody you're splitting it,
right,
and not give them the option, or, one family
flip a coin.
No, I mean, maybe you do Thanksgiving at one house and then, Christmas at the other, whatever that is.
Yeah.
If you have to travel or something, but if you're not, I'd say split the difference.
Yeah.
And then once kids start coming around, you have to be really firm and just say, look, Mom, Dad, like, I understand, I respect the tradition, but I've got a baby now. We're going to start our own traditions. We're still going to be apart. We're still going to be a family, but I need you to respect that. We're going to have our own traditions too.
Right.
Just like you do.
Yeah. I wonder what that will look like when our boys get married and have kids.
I think Miss Jackie's going to have a problem.
Well, I'm not going to be controlling like that, but I
but
like to get into all the
I
things.
know.
Like, I would want to go over the top and do all of the things that are fun and holiday-like for, their children.
No, you're too wise to have a problem in front of everybody, but you'll yell at me like, I can't believe that little bleep, bleep, bleep. No, I'm just kidding.
I would never do that. I would never do that.
No, it would be one of those things you'd be heartbroken about, but respectful of, and just kind of, okay, we'll just adapt to our new situation.
I feel like that's something that's pretty common. I just actually saw something the other day, and it was this family, this couple, it was a husband and wife. They had 2 small children, probably under the age of 5. And they had just bought their first house within the last year. And because they were excited about buying this first house, a beautiful home, they wanted to host Christmas. They all live in the same town. But the mom has hosted Christmas every year. And I want to say for the last 10 or 15 years. She goes over the top. And they asked her, can we host Christmas this year? Because we have little kids and it'd be easier also if everyone comes to us. And they had to prove and show the mom the decorations.
Oh, come on.
All the things that they wanted to do to try to
that?
convince her. I saw this on TV the other day.
Oh, it was a show? Like a TV show, or was it like a reality, like a real thing?
This is a real thing. It wasn't a show. It was a real thing.
That's obnoxious.
And they had to show her, and also she had to come and approve some of the holiday decor to make sure that it really was going to live up to the spirit of Christmas. That's an extreme. Now, she went with it, but they did jump through all the hoops.
She didn't go with it. She controlled the situation just like she has been controlling it for years.
Yeah.
That's obnoxious. If it was the wife's mom or the dad's mom? I
don't remember. I think it actually was the dad's mom.
Kind of sounds like he was a mama's boy.
I feel like it was the dad's mom.
That's obnoxious. I'm sorry. I wouldn't, we respect the...
You would put the kibosh on that?
Yes.
You would?
Yeah, I wouldn't let that, because that puts, if it's that scenario, that just puts too much pressure on you.
Yeah. I mean, on the outside...
Not pressure to live up to that, but
it does, kind of. They're pretty early on in their marriage, okay?
Yeah, I guess it's pressure to live up to it, but I'm angry at that one too.
Very angry today.
I'm sorry. I can't, I can respect people's traditions and the efforts they want to put into things and all that. I respect that. And I'm not obnoxious about stuff, but if it's things like that, where there's like these ultimatums or like demands or, you know what, like, what are we doing here?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like, no, sorry.
I am going to be completely honest. There's one thing that I feel like will probably always be my tradition. If they don't go along with it, they don't go along with it, but it's not going away. And that's my Valentine's breakfast. I am sticking to that. To that.
I know.
Even if it's not on Valentine's Day,
I've already told
still
you
want to do
that
this.
I'm going to pull my future daughter-in-law
Always.
once they're married. Well, they'll probably like have some, experience with Valentine's breakfast prior to them getting married, right?
I would
gonna know
imagine.
hopefully it's more than a year before they get married, right? So there'll be at least one Valentine's Day.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be on Valentine's Day. It has to be the week of Valentine's.
I know, but
that I do the breakfast.
I've
That is a
already
tradition.
committed to
I'm not giving that one up.
my future daughter-in-law, the first and the second one, for the second boy, that I will pull them aside and be like, "Hey, here's the deal." Just a father-in-law talk here.
It's the only thing I'm asking for, okay? I'll be flexible on...
Just let her have it. Because that could put undue... I'm sure she's going to have to, like, if she's smart, she'll latch onto it. Mm-hmm. If she really wants to, like, butter you up, she would like, "Oh, can I come over and help? I'd love to learn how to, best provide Valentine's breakfast for Brandon."
She'll be smart. My
If
boys
she's
are going to
smart enough
marry
to do
smart,
that,
strong
like,
women.
Good to her. Good for her. But I guess would that be our canary in the coal mine? Like, if she's like, "I'm not doing that," or she like
Not smart.
she tries to like, like talk Brandon out of it, or like downplay it, or not want to be involved with it, or anything. And Brandon may very well be like, "Well, I'm sorry. It was nice knowing you."
I don't know who doesn't want to be a part of Valentine's breakfast, though. It's a good time. And
It's a great
you don't have to
time.
lift a finger. I make all of the delicious food.
No, it's fantastic.
Everyone
I'm
shows
just
up.
laughing because that poor girl is going to have to live up to that. And there'll be an expectation from Brandon and from Dylan, like, especially if they don't get it the first year, like, "Where's Valentine's breakfast?"
Well, maybe I take it off their plate because if I do it every year, all they have to do is show up. I'm making it easy.
Oh, you're saying once they're married?
Yes, I do Valentine's breakfast still.
Oh, that's going to be a problem.
It doesn't have to be on Valentine's Day.
I thought you were saying like...
No. What I'm saying is I want to keep the tradition going.
Okay.
So they
you
all
might
come,
have to be
and it gets even bigger, the Valentine's breakfast.
Yeah,
and it's
so
like
just
a
so
family
everyone
Valentine's
knows,
breakfast.
apparently when the grandkids come around, it's going to be a Queen of Hearts theme and like
I'm going to have a Queen of
characters,
Hearts.
and there's going to be all sorts of like Alice in Wonderland stuff going on.
Yes.
This is going to get way out of control.
So at the end of the driveway, I'm going to have the Queen of Hearts, someone dressed up as the Queen of Hearts. And then she's going to hand a very large heart to each grandchild, their big Valentine. And then when they open it, it'll have like little clues to find different Valentine's gifts through the yard. And then it'll lead them to Valentine's breakfast. Is this over the top?
Slightly, but that one you can only do once, right? So the kids got to be older so they can appreciate it. If they're like 2 years old, and you're like, "Oh, okay, cool."
No, they have to be like 5, right? 5's a good age for that.
Gosh, I didn't realize it was that extensive. Wow, we're getting way off track, my love.
Sorry.
All right, guys.
Going down the rabbit hole.
Oh gosh, nice. But the point is, let's go back to the family.
Yeah.
Be very mindful, and it's harder, I think, with almost with friends you can kind of be a little bit more objective, but I think with family it's really a little bit,
it's more emotional.
It is. And you're there, they're part of your lives, they've always been part of your lives, but now you've got a new life. You have your marriage is more important. It just is. Not that the family's not important, it's just more important to protect that. And if that means you have to ruffle some feathers or kind of make some people get angry until they kind of come to that level of
I don't think we need to make anyone angry. I think it just needs to be...
I said if it needs to come to that point, then it needs to come to that point. You've got to protect your marriage first.
Yeah.
And then the other stuff will work itself out. And if it doesn't, then that's a them problem. If you handle it with grace, if you handle it with, firmly but lovingly, and whether it's a friend or it's a close family member or your parent, if they don't accept it and they don't kind of adapt, that's a them problem.
Well, and I think sometimes it does take time.
I know. Yeah.
There's a growth process there that needs to happen.
I agree. And that's why I think sometimes if it's a couple and they're trying to like ease out of traditions that their families does, maybe kind of ease into it, not just be like, "No, we're doing all our own stuff now." Probably wise. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to kill the spirit of your mom who's been doing some certain thing for every year for the last 30 years.
Of course not. Yeah.
But you do have to protect your marriage, and you have to protect your husband, and I have to protect my wife.
Yeah.
And their spirit. So, anyways, well, I like this topic. It's kind of fun.
Yeah,
I got a little fired up over here today. I'm sorry.
I'm getting really fired up.
I don't like soft men. It really bothers me.
Apparently, are you triggered? I feel like
if you say that word one more time, I'm going to be triggered.
I'm getting real angry.
Anyways.
Well, I think the other thing to this, and obviously I think I kind of touched on it before, but with the decision making, The other thing would be maybe turning to your parents for all of your emotional support. Let's say you're not speaking negatively of your spouse, but
you've got to cut that cord a little bit.
Yeah,
because
so
it's gonna negatively impact your marriage, I think.
That could be a part of it. And outside of family, outside of friends, I know that there's other people that can be influences. And because you've worked more outside of the home and have had more of those professional relationships since I work from home. I know you've mentioned to me when you recognize someone is a good husband or a good father, and that has influenced you. So it can also be a mentor. It can be a boss.
I think whether it's family, friends, bosses, mentors, it's really about recognizing, one, you may not realize that they're having that much of an influence on you.
Yeah.
But just be careful with who you let in is really what it boils down to. Not saying you need to be cold to people, but you can be friendly and friends with people and great coworkers and teammates without putting your marriage at risk by sharing too much or letting that person have undue influence on your life.
Yeah.
In that marriage, they could be your boss and have all sorts of impact on your job and performance and the way you act and this and that, but they don't have to have a moment or an iota of influence on your marriage.
Well, it can be. I'm saying that can be a positive.
No, it could be.
Yeah.
It could be. No, I'm saying, but that was intentional because I recognize that when I've heard and seen those types of scenarios. Wow, they seem to really, she really seems to have a great relationship with her husband, or he seems to be a great dad or a great husband. I look for that, but I'm also not telling people anything. I never share details like that with my coworkers.
But even if you don't share details, I think people may recognize, like you did. You recognize when someone else is a good husband or a good dad.
Sure, absolutely.
And
I've asked for advice from people that I've recognized, and I appreciate the way that they have acted or I hear them acting, that have been coworkers or peers, at work. So
I think knowing that you have a positive impact on someone else, even if you didn't say something like you said earlier, speaking into, but you still are having an impact just by setting an example. People, or especially younger couples, they watch what you're doing or how you treat your spouse. I mean, you don't maybe realize it, but I'm sure from time to time.
And we've had people say that to us.
Yeah,
and
recognize
that's
it.
That's great. So it makes you kind of, a lot is, what is it? A lot is caught, not taught, like they say. So
I don't know. I've never heard that. What is it? A lot is caught?
Yeah, like people watch and they pick up things versus necessarily being told what to do versus see what someone else does. Just like kids pick up what you do as parents.
Yeah.
Others around you have that kind of, you can either have a good influence on people or, other people can have a good influence on you or vice versa. So anyhow.
Well, I think this was a really fun topic.
Yeah.
I really like having the listeners kind of reach out with a couple of
thank you so much for trusting us with advice.
Yeah. And again, if you guys have anything else along those lines or something different, something similar, questions, you can always reach out to us at feedback@destinationmarriagepodcast.com. So we are going to roll out with some new episodes for the remainder of the month. Like we said, we're really just trying to hightail it to Christmas and get to the end of the year. We want to finish strong, but we are looking forward to a fresh start, a clean slate. I'm sure like most of you, right?
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening, and have a fantastic holiday season the rest of this month. Hopefully you're able to have great relationship building moments with your friends and families, and maybe you'll have a little bell go off when you hear certain situations if you're with your families and you're like, wow, that's, what, I don't even realize that person is, I don't want to allow that opinion in my life just because they're my relative. I don't need to. You know? Be mindful of that because it can have a good or a bad influence on your marriage, and you've got to protect it is what it boils down to. Protect it.
100%.
All right, guys.
Have a great week.
All right.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if so, please continue to listen and subscribe on Podbean, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. We would greatly appreciate positive reviews, and we will answer any questions at feedback@destinationmarriagepodcast.com. For up-to-date content and news about the podcast, you can follow us on Instagram at destination_marriage and visit our website at destinationmarriagepodcast.com. Be sure to tune in next week.